As the Ukraine war draws closer to the end of its fourth year, we've seen Ukraine's strategy evolve. Early in the war, Ukraine focused on defense. Russia attacked, Ukraine defended, and we would occasionally see counterattacks on Ukrainian territory. But now, everything has changed. Ukraine is hitting Russia on Russian territory while conducting strikes that Russia could never have seen coming. Many of Ukraine's strikes now come from the shadows. That's exactly what's happened with Ukraine's most recent strike. Russia's Iron Snake has been decapitated as a group of Ukrainian partisans has just completed a pair of strikes that devastate Russian logistics. First, we take you to Yekaterinburg, Yeka-Tuh-Rin-Berg. Russia's fourth largest city and one of the country's main cultural centers, Yekaterinburg doesn't appear to be an obvious target for Ukraine. Sure, if Ukraine were going to follow the Putin playbook of launching strikes against civilian population centers, a city like Yekaterinburg would be high up on the list. But a city that is famous for its architecture and street art doesn't immediately strike anybody as a clear military target. But behind the cultural beauty of this Russian city lie many military secrets. Yekaterinburg is the home of the headquarters of Russia's Central Military District of the Armed Forces, meaning there is plenty of brutality hiding among the beauty. But more importantly, as is the case with every other major Russian city, Yekaterinburg is the home of a large network of railways that Putin's forces have been using to transport troops and equipment both throughout the Russian motherland and into Ukraine. It was the rails that Ukraine targeted in its most recent strike. On September 17th, the Kiwi Post reported that the Atesh guerrilla movement has claimed responsibility for sabotaging a railway junction close to the city of Yekaterinburg. That sabotage was announced in a statement published on the group's Telegram channel, and it came with a stark warning. All military logistics of Russia are under threat. The Atesh group detailed how it carried out the strike in its Telegram post. Amidst pictures shared of the flaming wreckage of rail equipment, the group said, Atesh has paralyzed a railway junction near Yekaterinburg, threatening Russia's entire military logistics. Our agent carried out sabotage on the railway near Yekaterinburg, damaging relay equipment. This disrupted train traffic in all strategic directions. The Kyiv Independent followed up on this report, noting that an agent from the Atesh group, which is a partisan group founded in Ukraine, has penetrated a part of Russia that is about 1,000 miles away from Ukraine's border. There, they set fire to a relay cabinet in an effort to disrupt rail traffic to and from Yekaterinburg. That relay cabinet was one of many that are installed across the 4,440-mile Sverdlovsk-40 Lovsk railway line, which runs for much of the width of Russia. This junction was used to supply ammunition, armored vehicles, fuel, and personnel to the front, as well as to factories and warehouses in the north and east, Atesh said in its Telegram statement. Now, military trains are idle, causing damage to the army's rear, and that's the point of this type of attack. Relay boxes aren't the most difficult pieces of equipment to fix, and Russia will likely have the box up and running again fairly soon. But while that box is in flames, Russia's military trains can't complete the journeys they're scheduled to complete. That results in delays. These delays may mean that equipment doesn't reach Russia's soldiers in Ukraine, which can have one of two effects. Either Russia's soldiers have to hold fire on their assaults, giving Ukraine's defenders much-needed breathing room, or Russia commands its weakened soldiers to attack anyway, making them easy pickings for Ukraine. Atesh also mentions that the junction it targeted is also part of a network that delivers components and weapons to and from Russia's military warehouses and factories. Again, we see the issue of delays rearing its ugly head for Russia. When deliveries are held up because a relay station isn't working anymore, factories can't produce the weapons that Russia's troops need in Ukraine. In addition to supplies of ammunition and armored vehicles drying up, because the trains carrying those supplies are slowed down. Factories not producing ammo and equipment lead to even more supply chain challenges down the line. This was a very intelligent attack by Atesh, so intelligent that it was the second such act by the partisan group in a matter of days. On September 14th, Atesh operatives were doing something very similar. It's time in the Agachkovsky district, Adiga-Kabyelski of Russia. Again, the target was a relay station, which the group says was located close to the village of Sadavoy, which is between the Sadavoy and Erkin-Shekar railway stations. Atesh wasn't shy about proclaiming the success of this strike either. Just as with Yekaterinburg, The group took to Telegram to share pictures and videos of what it had accomplished. In addition to sharing the coordinates of the relay station strike on Telegram, Atesh wrote, "This railway line is used to transport ammunition and military equipment from industrial plants in the North Caucasus to the Rostov region, and then to the front in Ukraine." The group also explained the specific supplies that were stopped in their tracks. Literally, thanks to the strike. The sabotage disrupted train service, delaying the delivery of ammunition for MLRS or multiple launch rocket systems, and tube artillery equipment undergoing repairs and personnel being deployed. There's obviously a pattern here. Ukraine is targeting the Russian supply chain because it knows that the weaker this chain becomes, the weaker Russia's assaults in Ukraine become. Targeting a rail line responsible for moving artillery and MLRS is also a good idea because both are weapons that Russia uses extensively to attack Ukraine. That was especially the case earlier in the Ukraine war, when Russia outmatched Ukraine's artillery capability by a staggering 10 shells to each one that Ukraine could fire, though that has been reduced significantly, with the advantage being cut to 2-1 as of February. Russia's artillery has been a useful tool that Putin has commanded to raze several Ukrainian cities to the ground. Take away Russia's explosive firepower before it can even reach Russia's forces, and, once again, Russia's assaults become much weaker. So, we've seen 2 strikes in the space of 4 days, both carried out by the same partisan group that appears to now be operating deep inside Russian territory. Surely Russia wouldn't be able to deny that these strikes were happening. The evidence is as clear as day as we see the flaming wreckages of relay boxes being shared on Artesh's Telegram channel.
Yes.
Come on, if you thought Russia was going to acknowledge these attacks, then you haven't been paying attention to how the Russian propaganda machine works. As is almost always the case, unless Russia believes it can turn a Ukrainian strike into an opportunity to paint itself as the victim. The approach has been to deny, and deny again with these latest rail strikes. That's according to Newski, which says that Russia has followed its usual strategy of attempting to explain away the flaming wrecks of sites that Ukraine hits. Official Moscow is trying to downplay the sabotage by explaining the delays as breakdowns or accidents, the outlet reports. However, operational reports and hundreds of private logistics chats, data on massive inspections, road control, and a surge in repairs at key sites confirm that this is not an isolated failure, but a real resistance movement. Russia isn't necessarily trying to hide Ukraine's successes from the rest of the world. It knows the West isn't going to fall for its propaganda when presented with the evidence of what really happened. However, it is attempting to hide the evidence of what Ukraine achieves from its own people. That's why the message from Russian authorities to their people is to only trust official sources and not pay attention to whatever they might read or hear online. To aid its people in their compliance. Russia has also started implementing internet blackouts, especially when Ukraine's drones are flying overhead. Russia tries to claim that these blackouts are designed to aid Russia's air defense systems. The real reason they're happening is because Russia wants to prevent footage of Ukraine strikes from leaking online. And it definitely wants to prevent its own people from accessing that footage. These blackouts don't affect groups like Atesh. They can take photographs and videos before moving on to a location where they can connect to Telegram and share their evidence with everybody else. That doesn't stop Russia from attempting to deny that strikes ever took place. But it's enough to show anybody watching what really happens when relay stations along some of Russia's more important railway lines go up in flames. These aren't accidents. They are successful Ukrainian strikes. It gets even worse for Russia. Atesh has been very busy over the last week or so, as these 2 strikes against the Russian railway network aren't the only things that the partisan group has been up to. On September 11th, the Kyiv Post reported that Atesh operatives had also carried out a sabotage operation at the Sheglovsky, Valsheg Lohovsky VAHL plant, which is in the Russian region of Tula. This strike targeted a facility that Russia uses to manufacture its Panzer S air defense system, along with prototypes of next-generation armored vehicles, the outlet reports. Atesh destroyed a communications tower at the facility. Granted, this likely won't slow down production. However, the sabotage sent a message to Russia that Ukraine has people operating all over its territory. And in the Telegram statement announcing the strike, Atesh said something that has proven prophetic. Now, we are moving to more active actions and destroying the infrastructure of the enterprise. And this is just the beginning. Atesh wasn't lying. It has carried out 2 more strikes since the sabotage in Tula, and Russia will now be wondering what the group is planning to do next and what, if anything, Russia can do to stop it. Let's focus on Atesh itself for a moment. Typically, our reports on Ukraine's strikes inside Russia see us talking about Ukraine's intelligence or security services, which are often involved in the planning and execution of these kinds of attacks. That's not the case with Atesh. The group isn't officially part of Ukraine's military, as it is a partisan group that is acting independently, though with the same ultimate goal as Ukraine's official military. That's the entire idea of partisan groups. They occupy a somewhat gray area between paramilitary forces and civilian vigilante groups, which is fine for Ukraine and absolutely terrible for Russia. After all, how do you catch members of a group that has no official military connections? Partisans operate underground and away from prying eyes, often working directly in enemy territory. There are many of these kinds of Ukrainian partisan groups operating both in Russia and the occupied territories of Ukraine. The insider says that these types of unofficial groups may work independently of Ukraine's military, but they likely receive intelligence and resources to help them carry out their sabotage operations. Kiwi openly admits that a vast network of Ukrainian security agents operates in Crimea and other occupied regions of Ukraine, the outlet says. It is unlikely that the guerrillas carrying out these actions, which have included spotting for Ukraine's missile strike on the headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Crimea, prepared for them, without the assistance or even direct involvement of professionals.